The bandwidth for the Wild Paw Dog podcast this week was sponsored by dougalsden.co.uk. Amazing finds for the furry friend. Coming up in the show today, we've got a bark from Udo. We've got Karen talking about a book launch with Mark the Vet in London. And the main item, we've got an interview with Claire Calder. Claire's the Chief Scientific Officer at the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And she'll be talking about getpuppysmart.com. So how are we doing today, Karen?
We're great. We've got a really good bark, haven't we, today?
Oh, I just love these barks that we keep getting.
I know. It's so nice. Please send us your barks. They're so much fun. And John and I sit there grinning as we listen to them before we put them on the show. This week we've got Udo. Now, Udo is a very, very special dog. I mean, they're all special. But Udo has just achieved something wonderful. Udo's owner, Wendy, have both just qualified as a registered assistance dog partnership, and they only passed the test on, I believe it was Monday of this week. So absolutely fantastic. Congratulations, Udo and Wendy. And we've got a little Udo talking to us as well, haven't we?
Oh,
should we hear him?
Yeah, okay. Here's Udo coming up.
Udo speaking. Good boy, Udo.
Oh, I loved that one.
So did I. And it shouldn't be just us two talking, should it? Let's have the dogs talking as well, And also, actually, listeners, we are trying to set up a voicemail so you can ring in with questions. So we have got some recorded questions. I'll bring those in next week. But it would be really fantastic to hear your questions on a phone line or something. So we're going to try and set that up. So if you're interested and you have got a question, let us know. But we'll tell you contact details later.
Okay. Well, Karen, I think the first thing that we need to talk about after our guest appearance by Udo, this book launch that you went to in London. Tell me about it. Champagne, Dancing with the Stars?
Well, something like that, yeah. Mark the vet, Mark Abraham, who's a TV vet. I mean, he's obviously a qualified vet as well, but he's on our screens on This Morning, which is a regular TV show over here in the UK. And he's done quite a few other programmes on other channels as well. He has written a book about his early experiences as a vet when he was first sort of qualified, and we went to the book launch last week, and it was a lovely event. It was at the Kennel Club in London, which is right near Buckingham Palace. Now, I didn't know that. I'm such a provincial, but it was like I was half expecting the Queen to wander in with a corgi or three. And, but it was a really nice evening. There was a lot of really nice people there. I met some people that are famous, some people that aren't famous, but they were all absolutely terrific. Had a good old chat and caught up with some news with some of my sort of behaviour friends as well. So, yeah, it was a terrific day. And Mark's book, I haven't read it myself yet. That's mainly because although I have got a copy, I've been very, very busy, and I'm a bit of a book hound anyway, so I do have a lot of books to read, but I will read it. But all of the reviews that I'm getting about the book are really fantastic. So I'm going to be talking to Mark at Crufts probably tomorrow. So we'll have an exclusive podcast interview with him for next week.
Is the book's not just about dogs, is it? It's about...
Yeah, no, it's about his vet experiences. So it's all sorts of different things, and I believe there are all sorts of species mentioned in there. I don't want to preempt it, but I'm going to get Mark to share a few anecdotes with us as well, so that we can really get into the idea. But it a lot of people are saying how funny it is and how they've been looked at funnily on the train for laughing out loud when they're reading it. So.
Oh, but that sounds good. Mark, if you're listening, haven't heard anything about it here in Sweden. I think you should get over here and promote it. In fact, you're not on our television screens over here.
He'll probably come over now. Now you've invited him.
Okay, so Karen, is there anything else that you want to tell us about the book or what Mark's doing?
Mark's he's still doing a lot of work with the anti-puppy farming brigade. It's absolutely terrific, and that we really are going to have to be so careful where we get our puppies from. That does form the main theme of today's podcast. Just while I'm on my news for this week, just so that I remember, I was also at the APBC conference this Sunday, which is the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors, of which I'm a member, and that was a collection of the most terrific presentations that I have listened to in a very long time. Superb day, brilliant conference. The APBC really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. And, we had a talk from Ian Dunbar. Dr. Ian Dunbar did a pre-recorded talk for the conference. We had some talks from Sally Jones, who's a colleague of mine, talking about, sort of, how can I put it, sort of natural dog training. That when I say natural, she's going to kill me. What I mean is the kind of teaching your dog that you should do as an everyday thing without having to put in too much effort, but a very basic foundation of converting the dog's feelings through training into everyday behaviour. I can't really go into it in detail. I have to get Sally on to talk to us, but it's very much my kind of feeling about how we should be doing things and how dogs should live their everyday lives. So that was superb as well. I'll try and write a little bit more on the blog about that, I think.
Oh, that's good. And you'll put a link to Mark the Vet's website and his book on your website as well.
I will. Yes, I will. And I'm hoping I've already been offered some copies for prizes. So keep your eyes and ears open because we should have some. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Okay, well, I have one piece of news this week, and that is that I managed to fall over 3 times whilst walking puppies in very, very frozen weather. When it starts melting here, the ground is like ice. Thankfully, I didn't break anything, but I'm severely black and blue, and I didn't fall on the pups.
Oh, well, I was about to tell you. Well, that's good news then.
I know. Well, I felt I needed some sympathy there. And if you've had any experiences with your dogs that you'd like to share this week for another podcast, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely. Can I just call on everybody who's listening now, all together now? Oh. Right, they've all said for you.
Thank you. I feel much better. Thank you.
Well, as you know, John, I do karate and I sort of enjoy getting bruises and things like that. So probably for recreational purposes, I'm not the best person to ask for sympathy. But I do know what you mean. I saw a lovely gentleman this week who'd broken one arm in the snow last December walking his little dog, and then he broke the other arm about 3 weeks later walking his dog out on the snow. So please do be careful because I don't want you to get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Do take care out there, even when the sunshine comes back. Okay, I think we should get on to the main item, Karen.
Well, part of what I wanted to talk about this week, John, was about getting a puppy. Now, it's that time of year when a lot of people do get puppies, and obviously Crufts is coming up. So there is a section as part of Crufts where you can go and look at different breeds. The section's called Discover Dogs. So, John, you're a breeder. If someone was looking for a puppy from you, they found you and they came and gave you a call or whatever, what sort of thing are you looking for in an owner? What would you consider to be the right path for someone?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's something very, very close to my heart. Usually the first approach, people often email me because, I don't know if that's a Nordic thing, but people are always a little bit scared to sort of just call up and start asking questions. And I always write back straight away, please give me a call. Or I'll call them if they give me a number. And when we get talking, I always start, I have a sort of few set questions, and I say to them, have you had a Basset Hound before? Have you had a dog before? Usually people that have never owned will then say, oh, but I grew up with dogs. And then I'll say, well, what role did you play? Were you the primary carer in the house? What do you remember about that? What was the most difficult thing about having a dog as a kid? What was the easiest thing? So I really want to get a sense. I'm not interrogating them, but I'm trying to get a sense of, have they thought through a dog-human relationship on some level? And then I always say, you have to come to the kennel and have a look at us. I say kennel, it's a family overrun with Basset Hounds. And I say, come over and meet us and meet the big dogs. And when they get here, I always insist that they see the big dogs first. If I've got puppies, ideally people come and see us when we haven't got puppies, so they get a sense of what a real Basset Hound's like. Lots of people will say over here, I'd like to see the dogs as big dogs and then go on a puppy list, which is of course brilliant. But if we've got pups, you can't resist a Basset Hound puppy. So you have to see the big dogs first. And then we always take people out on a walk if we can, say, let's walk the Bassets, because walking Bassets, they're scent hounds. They sniff. They're not going to run around and be super communicative like say a Golden would be. And then we sit down and talk things through. Maybe show them the pup and talk about expectations. So for me, what I look for in a potential puppy buyer is someone who can show that they're serious. Even first time buyers. I don't expect everyone to be an experienced Basset owner from the past, but I expect them to show that they've thought carefully and closely about what owning a dog, and specifically a Basset, will involve. Have they read some of the main books, the Marion Nixon book on Basset hounds, which is a really seminal work, things like that. I'm looking for a sense of, and someone I can also work with as well. I really don't like it when people buy a dog from me and disappear. That's
absolutely fascinating, because if you think about it, John, the one thing that we haven't talked about, or that you haven't mentioned yet, is which puppy should they get. And I think that sometimes where we fall down, where we were in an environment where more dogs are euthanized due to behavior problems than any other problem, than any other veterinary medical problem. It's a behavior problem that leads to early euthanasia. So we aren't even talking yet about the puppy. What we're talking about is what the owner's expectations are, what having a dog is really like. Yes, having a Basset is like, because obviously you're a Basset breeder and they're coming to you for a specific type of dog. But before all that, there are so many questions that we need to answer. And this is what really, I suppose, I wanted to talk about today. And certainly when I was talking with Claire, the interview that we're going to have in a moment, was our criteria for getting a puppy seems to be slightly at odds with the reality of what it's like. And, people are not silly. I mean, I've said it before, I get really frustrated where people will be very owner bashing and go, well, owners are idiots and they don't know what they're doing. Of course they do. People care. They want the right thing for their family. They might have children. They want the right sort of dog for them. I feel like the information that they're getting given is not appropriate to what they actually need to know. So that's my opinion. But I'm thinking where we're looking at, perhaps maybe we look at size, maybe we're looking at coat, maybe we're looking at looks, image, those sorts of things that go along with dog ownership are very small in the long run success of that ownership.
I mean, one of the key I get so in the past, I've bred quite a few tri-coloured Basset hounds, 3-colour Bassets. At the moment, the litter that we had in August were primarily red and whites. There were 3 tri-colours, and the tri-colours went like that. I've still got 3 red and whites here, and I get so many calls from people saying, have you got a tri-colour? And I said, no, I don't have a tricolour at the moment, but I've got 3 Bassets who have got fabulous temperaments. Physically, they're the best Bassets. I mean, if you've bought a Basset from me in the past, yes, they're great, wonderful dogs, and I love them so much. But I'm so proud of these 3 dogs I've got here at the moment. They are phenomenal. I mean, as a breeder, I'm always growing and learning out about the breed. And as part of my what I've done with breeding is to, I do outcrosses. I believe in mating dogs that are not closely related at all. And one of the great things about in Sweden is that you can put into the kennel club the dogs that you're going to breed and get a percentage to see how much they're inbred. But that's another show.
That's fantastic. I mean, imagine if you could do that. And I also equally, John, I don't think that breeders themselves are unscrupulous. I think there are unscrupulous breeders, just as there are unscrupulous car salesmen, and there are puppy farms out there. And it's quite easy actually to identify the puppy farms that are out there. It is now. I mean, they're very clever, but it is quite easy if you follow certain rules. But even so, like you've said, I think, and we'll talk about the getpuppysmart.com site, which is the RSPCA's new site in a moment. But I just think it's so important that somehow, before we even decide what the dog looks like, apart from maybe size, you've got to think about, I mean, I choose small dogs because I've got young children and I don't think I could manage with large dogs around my house. I see them all the time in work. I'm more than happy to handle them. That's not the problem. I don't see it as something that I could manage in my home, given the size of our house, the size of our garden. But other than that, looks generally, I didn't pick my dogs because of how they look. I ended up with a very pretty little dog because she was given to us. But Pickles is the most ridiculous ears. He doesn't look particularly, I like him, but I like his personality. When I went to choose my puppy, I was very, very careful. I went to see somebody local so that I could go back several times. She was asking me more questions than I was asking her, which was a long discussion, believe me. But I was very careful. I saw the mum, I saw the dad, I saw one of the brothers that was older, I saw one of the grandparents. And it's something that, I really wanted this dog for 15 years. And I think you cannot, or you should not, make a decision on a dog that's a cosmetic decision.
Oh, absolutely.
Whatever you do, whatever you think the dog's going to make you look like, when I've been asked to advise people on homing a puppy and what sort of puppy they should get, they have ended up with the most unlikely breeds for what they originally thought. They thought they wanted a big, muscular, tough-looking dog. They've ended up with something like a Papillon crossbreed that's actually very dainty. One of the people that I've helped, obviously the ultimate decision was up to them, but they've ended up with a little Papillon. The guy's a very well-known martial artist. He walks down the road with this little dog on a lead. Somebody called out to him from a car window. There's a guy very in touch with his masculinity. And he said, yeah, no problem. The dog's terrific. It's terrific with the kids.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying this, I'm not getting all preachy. I might sound like that. That's not what I mean. What I'm trying to get across, and this is what I want people to go to the puppysmart.com site and go and look at it and spread it around. Let's see people making decisions on temperament, on suitability, on home appropriateness. That's not really a very good phrase, but is it appropriate for your house? Have you actually got the time to look after this dog? I was gutted this week because I had a lovely client. She is a terrific lady. She's worked really hard with the dog, but finally she decided she couldn't manage it because she's got 2 very young children and she's not getting enough sleep, and the dog needs looking after as well. And, terrific dog. He's quite a sparky little dog, needs handling. She was doing really well with it. But it just wasn't right for her environment. And she's found out the hard way. And it's very, very sad. The dog will be fine. She will be fine. But it wasn't a recommendation that I made. Again, it's someone else's animal. But you have got these animals for 15 years. It's not something that you should take lightly, is it?
No, absolutely. So what did you talk to Claire about then?
Well, there is a new site which the RSPCA have brought out, which I've mentioned a few times, getpuppysmart.com. It is absolutely brilliant. It's an animated site. It's not all animated, so if you can't play Flash, you can still see all the information on there. There's a lot of easily accessible information about what you should look out for when you do get a puppy. Let's face it, if you've made the decision to get one, you may as well make a good decision and get the right one. So there's lots of information about that. There's information about inbred sort of faults and problems that might arise from getting a dog that's overly inbred. And there's an interesting page of celebrity dogs actually with exaggerated features. The dog, not the celebrity. Where they're saying, they might look nice, but your dog has exaggerated features. And obviously the RSPCA has an interest in maintaining the welfare of animals. And there are some breeds that they feel, or in fact, they do not feel that you should make a choice on the basis of something like that, something like a cosmetic thing. Now, Claire obviously speaks for herself on this, but so you should really listen to the interview to see what she says exactly. But the impression I came away with after our interview was that they've really thought about this and they've made it very accessible to get online, to get the information, to just watch a little cartoon, easy to get the ideas. And this is the brilliant bit, on that site as well, there are little print-off checklists that you can print off, take away with you and check off all the things that you think you need to ask a breeder or that you're going to consider when you're choosing a dog. So it is a brilliant resource. I was delighted that she came and talked to me. So shall we listen to the interview?
I think that's a great thing to do, Karen.
Oh, before we start it, I just wanted to say Claire did ask me to add, although obviously the focus of today is on puppies, there are also a great deal of rescue dogs that do need homes. So although we are talking about puppies today, let's not forget those dogs that are older, probably through no fault of their own, be rehomed and are looking for somewhere to go and live. So do bear that in mind when you're making your choice. I'm delighted to be joined today by Claire Calder, who is the Senior Scientific Officer at the RSPCA. Hi, Claire.
Hello. Now,
Claire, you have a new programme together with the RSPCA, don't you, called Get Puppy Smart. Tell me about that.
Get Puppy Smart is a new evidence-based campaign from the RSPCA, and it's a new website which includes an animation at getpuppysmart.com, and the animation contains a lot of useful information to help people who are thinking about buying a puppy. We've realised that a lot of people are falling into the trap of basing their decision on choosing a puppy based on its appearance rather than, for example, doing their research and seeing how it will fit into their lifestyle and choosing a happy and healthy puppy. So the animation talks them through the kind of things that they need to think about to choose a happy and healthy puppy.
I've actually watched the animation and it's very easy. So if you do want to access that, as Claire said, it's on getpuppysmart.com. It's well worth the watch, actually, because there's quite a lot of interesting information on there, but it's very easily accessible. So Claire, how can people know that, that a dog that they've chosen, not necessarily a breed, but any dog, how can they know that it's actually healthy?
The absolute key to choosing a happy and healthy puppy is to do your research. And the RSPCA has recently commissioned some research to see what people are doing. And that showed that around about 40% of people who bought a puppy in the last 2 years spent a week or less researching the dog that they ended up buying. And that's just really concerning. What we want to do is to get people thinking about the things that they need to think about to choose a happy and healthy puppy. And on getpuppysmart.com, we've provided this kind of information. So kind of things like questions to ask the breeder on the phone before you go to visit them. And if you're happy with their answers, then we've got a kind of checklist of information to check when you go and visit it. And we also have fact sheets on things like exaggerated physical features to look out for and inherited disorders, and the kind of things that you should be thinking about to choose a puppy that's really happy and healthy.
Yeah, that's something that's very important as well, is looking at, the exaggerated features issue. And I think we'll come to that in a minute. But, how might a person know that they've got a good breeder? Because I know from experience, and I'm sure you do, that if no matter whether they're a scrupulous breeder, an unscrupulous breeder, they have all the answers on the phone. And even when it does sound dodgy, I have had clients that have still kind of, against their better instincts, gone and chosen a puppy that probably isn't suitable for all sorts of reasons, even if the puppy is showing absolutely signs of illness. How do people know that what they're getting is good? Do they know it's a good breeder? Is there any way to tell?
The RSPCA, as part of this campaign, realises that it is incredibly difficult to know what to look for when you're buying a puppy. And a lot of people, we think, go and see a puppy, think it's cute, and at that point their heart starts beginning to rule their head. And that's why we're trying to turn it around. And instead of telling people, this is the kind of breeder we want you to go to, we're trying to get people to start thinking and starting the right questions of breeders. And really common sense rules. If the breeder can answer your questions quite happily, is happy to show you the puppy with its parents and the place where it was bred, and answer all your questions about the puppy's experiences and the health of the puppy and its parents, then that's going to be a really good start. And the key to this, as I've said, is really do your research first, so you know those crucial questions to ask of the breeder and know what kind of answers you expect to get from them. And that is really going to be the best way to choose a puppy that really is happy and healthy.
I was at the APBC conference, the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors conference this weekend, and we had a special talk by Dr. Ian Dunbar, who is a very well known, I'm sure you've heard of him as well in the dog world. And one of the things that he said, which I think was very interesting, was, don't just play with the puppies, because anyone can play with puppies, and puppies are really, really lovely. They're all cute. Look at the parents, but also play with the parents, play with the grandparents of these dogs. If you've got a dog and you're going to have it for 15 years, then it's not necessarily the puppies that you should be looking at on their own. You need to look at, and the parents as well, but both of them, and the grandparents, because if the grandparents are long-lived, then they're probably quite healthy. If they've got health problems, you'll be able to see it. Now, I recognise that that's not always going to be possible, but don't you think that would be wonderful?
Absolutely. What we have to realise is that some ways of how a puppy behaves is based on experience, and some of it will be based on genetics. And what we're saying when you're choosing a puppy is that it's one thing to get a healthy puppy, but you also have to make sure it's happy and has had all the experiences that it needs, and its parents and even grandparents, if you can possibly see that, are happy too. Mm. So within getpuppysmart.com, there are things to look at, kind of what you should be looking at when you meet the parents and the puppy, both to check that it's healthy and happy.
And the fascinating thing about this is that in the whole of that website, everything is talking about looking at what you see in front of you. And the omission, and the important thing for me, is nobody's mentioning whether the puppy is registered or whether it's not registered, because I'm sure that is taken, particularly, I mean, it's not just the Kennel Club, there are other places that will register puppies, and it's given as a badge of quality, where it has to be understood, in my eyes, it's more like a car registration. You know, your car is registered, but that's not had somebody come out and look at it and say, is it okay or not? I understand there are regulations attached to these things, but they're probably not going to be aimed at these new puppies right here. They're more to do with where they've come from. I don't know. What do you think about that? And registration, is it any good?
The RSPCA, again, is not directing people to kind of registered breeders or that kind of thing, what kind of breeder to go to. What we want to do is kind of turn it around and empower owners to know what they should be looking for, no matter what kind of puppy they're buying and no matter who they're buying it from. The same questions should apply. So you should be asking the same things from any breeder to make sure that puppy is happy and healthy, and that's what Get Puppy Smart will help people to do.
Yeah, now you mentioned about, you know, inbred faults and things that are, you know, to do with exaggerated features. What kind of thing do you mean by that?
So when we talk about exaggerated features, we're talking about the aspects of the dog's body almost that have been exaggerated to such a degree that they can now cause it suffering or just prevent it from behaving how it would do normally. So we're talking about things like short, flat faces, wrinkled skin, abnormal positioning of the eyes, screw tails, very long ears, those kind of things that really can cause problems for the dogs.
So, you know, there has been a lot of publicity, you know, there was their well-known documentary a few years ago on the television about this, and I think it focused on one or two breeds, but I think it's important, I don't know if the RSPCA would feel this as well, but it's important to see this as a more widespread problem.
The RSPCA definitely is concerned about exaggerated features across many kinds of dogs. And again, on getpuppysmart.com, we've got information specifically about exaggerated features and what to look out for. But what we would say is that recently science has shown that in a study of the top 50 most popular dog breeds, all of those breeds had some aspect of their conformation that can cause suffering. So this isn't just something that's limited to kind of one or two breeds. Whatever kind of dog you're thinking of getting, you really need to know what to look out for and what to avoid.
Why do you think, I mean, I know I'm aware that the RSPCA are not going to be at Crufts again this year. Why is that?
The RSPCA can't support dog shows that use breed standards as the main judging criteria. And that's basically what Crufts does. A breed standard is something that specifies what a dog should look like in words, and then the judges use that to judge the dogs against. And we're really concerned about those because we think that they encourage the breeding of disabled dogs and the breeding of closely related animals because they're judging what a dog looks like rather than with its health, welfare and temperament in mind. So we're really concerned about dog shows that judge on appearance, and what we want to see are dog shows that judge on health, welfare and temperament instead. I
mean, let's sort of look at an example. I mean, I've just had a client who's had to rehome her dog. It actually went back to the breeder. Temperamentally, it wasn't suited to the family, and they also had very young children. And although the dog was okay, you know, it was fine. It was just quite a difficult prospect, I think, for most people, but certainly if you've got young children. But you know, Claire, people aren't, you know, they're not stupid. My clients are quite often, they'll blame themselves. That's the first thing they do. They say, well, it's my fault because I didn't do this or I didn't do that. But they aren't fools, you know, and I don't think they part with their money easily. So what is it that they're missing? Where is it? Is it us? Is it that we're not getting in early enough? Is there a sort of block on the communication here? What is it, and how do you think that we can get the message across further? I mean, obviously this podcast is one way, but in some ways I always feel like we're preaching to the converted. Where can we get in? What can we say?
The RSPCA really recognises that there is a problem. People are buying puppies without doing their research, and it is difficult to know how best to address that. And for people buying a puppy, it's really difficult as well to know where to go to get the information that they need. But from some polling that's been done by the RSPCA, we got some really shocking statistics back on what people are doing. So, as an example, we questioned people who had bought a puppy in the last 2 years, and 56% of those people didn't see the puppy with the mother before they bought it.
Oh my gosh.
An absolutely critical thing to do. It's just a simple message that we've been saying for years and years and years. Whatever you do, ideally also see it with its father and its siblings, but absolutely see the puppy with its mother in the place where it was born. So there is a big problem. People aren't doing that, and we really need to start giving them the information that they need so that they can make properly informed decisions when they're buying puppies.
It's almost that it happens too late, and that's what I was trying to sort of get at. I wonder if, is there a way of, obviously getpuppysmart.com is going to be a way of doing that, and hopefully we can make it between us, and everybody listening can spread the word. It almost seems, though, that we always come in too late. Now, that might be the nature of the job I do. It may be the nature of the RSPCA and when they are eventually get involved, but I just wish there was this key to getting involved at such an early stage. And I believe even if the puppy is going to the vet and having its vaccinations, at that point, the person's already made the purchase, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, with getpuppysmart.com, again, what we're saying, this whole campaign is trying to get people to think about this before they even make the decision to buy a puppy. So we're starting right at the beginning and saying there are just so many things to think about. If you buy a puppy, that puppy could be part of your family for 15 years or more. So it's not a kind of quick decision to make. You need to do your research. So the campaign is trying to get people, before they even decide to buy a puppy, to do their research and really think it through.
It's very difficult, isn't it? And I wish that we could do more. I think that, like I said, the main thing for people listening is to go and have a look at the site. It's a very, very good site. It's not overly complex. You can watch cartoons, or you can actually access the information just as a written page, can't you?
Yep. And there's a lot of interactive features where people can download them and take them away. And a really great thing is that we've got some checklists for visiting a puppy, and you can actually print that off and take it with you when you go to visit. Yes,
and listeners as well, if you're planning to buy a puppy, be aware that the breeders can also print out the checklist and take it with them, so you're not asking them things they won't have found out before. I think I usually say to people, trust your gut instinct, but I think buying a puppy is such an emotional decision for a lot of people that's probably not always the best thing to judge it by. And I don't know whether you think this is a good idea or not, but I usually ask people, don't take the money with you on the first day.
Yeah, part of the animation, again, really advises people to go and see the puppy more than once. First time you contact the breeder, ask them questions on the phone so that you're not making that emotional connection with the puppy. And only if you're happy, then go and visit it. But the crucial thing here is visit it more than once, and not just for a short period of time either. Really spend some time getting to know the puppy. And another really good thing to do is if you have children, don't take them with you on the first visit, because they will pester you to buy the puppy.
Yeah, don't I know?
So we would always say don't take your children until the second visit, because if something isn't right, then it's going to be so much easier for everybody involved to take them only when you find a puppy that you're really thinking about getting.
Just out of interest, I'm a big fan of crossbreeds, and I have crossbreeds myself, and because I'm very careful to choose for temperament, and looks aren't really important at all. I because of the kind of job that I do, my dogs have to come with me, so that's kind of what I use as my basis for choice. In the survey, was there any information about crossbreeds? What's the feeling about crossbreeds? Are they a good prospect?
The survey didn't necessarily ask questions on crossbreeds, but the RSPCA would say that there are certainly advantages to choosing a crossbreed puppy. So, for example, crossbreeds are less likely to show some exaggerated physical features and inherited disorders that are present in pedigree dogs that have been bred for showing. Crossbreeds can also live for longer, and they can be cheaper to insure than pedigree dogs. But the key thing to remember is that buying a crossbreed alone isn't enough to guarantee that it's going to be a happy and healthy dog. And although that's it's less likely for them to have exaggerated features and inherited disorders, they still can get them. So it's really important, whatever kind of dog you're getting, do your research and ensure that it's happy and healthy.
Yeah, and the other part of the animation, I think, just to add to that, was to do with the size of the dog that you're ending up with. So there are some quite popular crossbreeds out there at the moment that are enormous, and I see an awful lot of them. So although I'm saying yes, crossbreeds, you do have to look at the overall picture, don't you, and look at the size of the dog as well, and how much activity you can actually provide, because some of the larger ones, I mean, Labradoodles, for example, they're very big dogs, aren't they?
Yeah. So again, the take-home message is do your research, no matter what kind of dog you're buying. So
do your research. Visit getpuppysmart.com. If you're in doubt, there's people like me you can ask. There's all sorts of people out there that will help you. Remember that breeders have something to sell, so they may not always be the right person to ask. You could consult with lots of people, and do spread the word. Thank you so much, Claire, for coming on and telling us more. If people want to know more, obviously they can visit getpuppysmart.com. What about the research that you talked about? Is there a website that we can access for that I can put on the blog that goes with this podcast?
Everything that I've mentioned, it can be found on getpuppysmart.com.
Oh, right, so it's actually on there. Okay.
Yep, we also, our press release mentioned some of our statistics, so on the RSPCA website as well.
So what I'll do is I will find, for everyone, I'll find the link to that and I'll put that on. I'll also put the getpuppysmart.com link onto my site, but it's probably so easy to find on its own. You're also on Twitter, aren't you? So I'm going to put that out on my Twitter account. So that you can all access.
I think there's a Facebook account as well.
Oh yes, there is, because I looked at that. Yeah, if you can search on Facebook, you can find getpuppysmart.com and like that. You definitely need more likes on there, because I saw there's about 400, but I know it's very new. So let's try and boost those numbers and spread the word and share it across Facebook to all your friends, because you just never know. There is going to be that one person that's going to read it and be saved from a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Claire, and I hope you'll keep us up to date with further developments, and wishing you every success with the site as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for doing that, Karen. That was a really interesting interview.
And I found the statistics very interesting. I mean, the number of people that don't see, that the mother of the puppies is horrifying. I mean, you heard me gasp in horror there. Absolutely horrifying. I just thought people assumed that maybe we are assuming that people know things that they perhaps don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the whole thing for everyone who is involved in the world of dogs, whether it's vets, whether it's the associations like the RSPCA, breeders, trainers, canine behaviourists like yourself, we all want the very best for dogs, and we want the very best for the people that our dogs live with.
Yeah, absolutely. These are family pets. That's the point. That's the point of my work. To me, that's what I want. I want that to be nice, and I want that relationship to be nice. It's never going to be 100%. There's always going to be something. But if we can pre-warn ourselves what it might be like, have the correct expectations, and then end up with a dog that's, like I keep saying, home appropriate. Mm-hmm. I get probably laughed out of the place because I've got these little tiny dogs at my house, and I'm supposed to be this, big tough trainer, and it doesn't stop me handling massive dogs when I'm out. But when I come home, I don't want to have great big dogs knocking my kids over. And no matter how well trained they are, even if they're playing, a swishy tail can get hold of, So I know that. I've been there, I've done it. And I quite like, choosing the dogs that I think fit into my lifestyle. And I think that's just the way that I like to do it. So, it's very interesting.
Do people ask you, if they're thinking of buying a pup, do people approach you and sort of say, Karen, can we just touch base and knock a few ideas around? Or
Yeah, very often. Yeah, very often. It's very hard to direct people to a specific breeder. I tend not to do that, but I give them the same sort of information on the Get Puppy Smart site, and I also talk about different breeds, because you do get a lot of people will go all gooey and say, I really like a husky, for example, and I have talked to the husky rescue people, and they say, most people that bring the dog into rescue always wanted a husky because of how they look, and they don't realise that these dogs need absolutely tons of activity, and they do all these things that don't necessarily fit into your average household lifestyle, and people weren't expecting that. They want a dog that kind of sleeps all day, and generally they don't do that. What I would say as well, John, I mentioned about rescues before we started the podcast. There is a brilliant rescue organisation called the Oldies Club. They are on Twitter as Oldies Club, so if you want to get hold of them, you can. They generally look after dogs that are about 7 years of age or above, and they need fosterers for their dogs, particularly if you haven't got cats in your home. They did an appeal the other day. But if you've got an older dog, maybe it's 7 or over, you've got a pretty good idea of what that dog's like. So why not consider looking at a dog like that if you want to get a dog for your home? You know, they've lived long enough. I mean, gosh, they weren't put down when they were a year old, so they're probably going to be reasonably good. So, you know, let's face it, you know, they've survived. So they must, you know, they might have been rehomed through an elderly owner or whatever. But, you know, do look at these places as well. You don't have to get a puppy.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, they're on Twitter. That's twitter.com/Oldies Club, all in one word, Oldies Club on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll put a link on my blog as well, because there's so many places you could get a dog from, puppies included. So it's just nice to know that some of the tried and testeds are out there, and they're very reliable people, very, very friendly, very helpful.
Well, I hear you've got, changing the subject slightly. Oh, hello, Aggie. It's always Aggie. Hello, Aggie. I hear you've got an exciting project coming up, Skinny Paws.
Skinny Paws. Yeah, we mentioned it. Was it last week, the week before? Myself and Lynn Haig, who runs Dougal's Den, who are our sponsors actually for the podcast. We decided that we were getting a little bit flabby after Christmas, and you know, we wanted to lose a bit of weight, and we thought at the same time we might as well try and raise some money for charity while we're doing it. We've had so much support already, so we decided to link up with medical detection dogs, who are the dogs that do work for, like, they used to be called cancer dogs, cancer detection. They also have dogs that alert for medical assistance. So if somebody's diabetic and they're about to go into a coma or something like that, the dog will alert to get the medical kit. And Claire Guest, who is their sort of director, she did a brilliant talk at the conference on Sunday, very moving talk about how these dogs work with people and how they make their lives so much easier. So Lynn and I have decided we would like to raise £2,000 for the charity, and we are on Twitter as Skinny Paws. We've also got a website that I'll put on my blog. We want either people that want to join in the challenge, or people that are going to challenge us to do mad things, because we're going to have a bit of fun and get fit. As obviously, It's not just about losing weight. It's about healthy lifestyle, getting fit, doing things that we don't particularly want to do, but that people are going to challenge us to do, and, you know, and donate and raise awareness for the charity, and just generally have a lot of fun with it, but for a brilliant cause.
And if they challenge you, say, for example, if I challenged you guys to drink a cocktail of vegetables blended together every morning for your breakfast for 5 days, yeah,
we would do it, as long as we are getting, it's not conditional that you have to sponsor us to do it. You don't have to do that, but as long as it raises money for the charity in some way or another. And that sounds like a good one. So you better write that down, John.
Yeah. Okay.
You can see my face like, oh gosh.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking I'm definitely going for that one.
We've got some great challenges. We've got a trampoline challenge. We've got my climbing frame in the back garden of my children. We've got to do something over that. We're proposing things like that. We've also got a Pink Panther fancy dress costume that one of us is going to have to wear in a public place. But we need your donations for medical detection dogs. Please donate, even if it's only a couple of quid. This is such an amazing charity. You know, we want you to join in. We want you to do challenges. If you've got a dog walking group that you're part of, we'll set you a challenge and you can get sponsorship and then pay it in on the Just Giving site. It's a Just Giving website, so it means that it's all completely easy to access. It's all above board. And obviously we can do gift aid on there as well, which means the charity gets even more money. So,
and what's the URL for that? Just Giving?
It's Just Giving, and then it's Skinny Paws. But if you go on to skinnypaws.com, www.skinnypaws.com, or get hold of us on Twitter, which is twitter.com/skinnypaws, or just contact me or Lynn at dougalsden.co.uk, and you will find us on there.
Fabulous. Okay, everyone, go sponsor them and help get them thin or thinner and raise some money.
Yeah, it's all about health. And there's also a section on the site that we're putting together for dogs. I mean, it's not just dogs, it's pets generally. But if you have a pet that's slightly overweight and you think your pet could do with losing a few pounds, then obviously you need to see your vet and make sure you're doing it according to their advice. But there's no reason why they can't join Skinny Paws. Why not? It's all about good health, and it's all about promoting. We are so lucky to be healthy. We don't need dogs to come and alert to us when we have a problem. We're lucky. So let's try and put some money and some effort towards those people that really do need support. And you can work with dogs to do it. What a brilliant combination.
All right then, Karen, I think it's time to start wrapping up the show. Let's let people know, if they're new to the show, how they can get in touch, and remind our regular listeners, some of you from Zambia, I see on the statistics. Hello, Zambia.
Hi, Zambia.
Hi, Zambia. So tell us, why don't you tell us, Karen, how people can get in touch?
Well, you can find me on Twitter, either on the IDs that I've just given to you, or my Twitter handle is WildPaw, WILDPAW. So I'm on there. And also you can email the show on podcast@karenwild.co.uk. You can also get hold of Jon on @JohnBuskell, which is on Twitter as well, isn't it? And, we'd love to hear from you. I've just noticed, Jon, I think, I could be wrong, but isn't this our 20th podcast?
It's our 20th podcast.
Hey. We made it to number 20.
We made it to number 20. That's fabulous, Karen. Well, let's hope the next 20 are as enjoyable. And let's hope that we're helping you, our listeners, improve the life that you share with your dogs. And remember, if you want to build your own training manual, go along to Karen's website, and that's intellidogs.com. for intelligent training manuals, and you can pick a mix at a very, very good price to put things together to take up some of the training issues that you might be having. And also, if you'd like to go to iTunes, and there's a link on the website with the podcast, if you'd like to go to iTunes and check out some of the earlier editions of the show, Aggie's trying to hurry me along to finish this up. If you'd like to go along to iTunes and check out some of the earlier editions, you'll find lots of training tips and doggy discussion over those previous 2019 shows. Math was never my strong subject. All right then, Karen, have a lovely time at Crufts.
I will. I shall be reporting back next week for you all.
Which days are you there?
I'm there tomorrow, which is Thursday, and Friday.
Oh, you're missing the hounds. All right then, Karen, have a great time.
Bye, Jon.
Bye. The bandwidth for the Wild Paw Dog Podcast this week was sponsored by dougalsden.co.uk. Amazing finds for the furry friend.